From saying our names, I'm Katarina,
Ross,
Tanya,
David,
George,
Julia,
Jessica,
Adrian,
we, nobody, Morning,
Peter, Dean,
Tass.
and there we go for Bob.
Away we go.
There we go.
Why we're wises. Why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you do, and everything you think is for yourself. And there isn't one. But I see everybody is happy. Yeah, that's all. So you must be rid of that self. Good start, isn't it? And that's what it's all about. Recognising your true nature. What you really are. Not the conceptual beliefs we put upon ourselves. Believing we're separate, miserable, and having a bad trot and all the rest of it. That self, which they point out there is only one self, the Atman. Hey, good to see you.
yes, time for a second.
Only the one self, the Atman, and you are that. That's the great mantra, I am that. And innately you know that, because I say that everything is that. And don't you know it already, because you say that's the chair I'm sitting in. That's the room the chair's in. That's the spaces in the room. That's the tree, that's the flower. Everything is that, which we discriminate with the word. We put other labels or words on it to say it's a chair or the table. That's taking away from the thatness of it, seemingly, and believing it's something other than that. But when I point out clearly that everything is already that, why do we continue to do that? Recognising everything for what it is, as it is. It's still that one essence. It's battling, shaping, forming, appearing, and expressing as everything. And it happens that way. It couldn't happen any other way, because the thatness that we talk about, we point to, is absolute. Contains everything. Nothing can be added to it. Nothing can be taken away from it. Or, as they put it in Buddhism, the great perfection. Perfection, same as the absolute. Nothing can be added to it. Nothing can be taken away from it. So, you are that. Absolute. Because you and I are things. The tree is the thing, the space is the thing. Everything in this manifestation are things. Appearing in that basic screen on which they appear on is no thing. It's space. Can you say space is something? Try and grasp it. Find a centre to it. Find a circumference to it. It's no thing, but you can't get away from it. And all these things that are appearing in it are the content of space. Because can you postulate or think of anything that could be outside of space? What would it be in? Well, you'd have to say it's got to be in space, something. Space is no thing, and everything is the content of space. So you're a thing, I'm a thing, the room's the thing, the trees. All this manifestation are things. So in reality, we really are that space-like awareness, the no thing. But we take ourselves to be something separate and apart. Individuals, person. And all those words are seemingly separating the inseparable. If it's one thing, there's nothing separate. Nothing can stand on its own, separate and apart from it. Everything is already that. And it's that patterning, shaping and forming, which that awareness, if you like to call it that, the life essence, or the awareness is expressing through. And in that seemingly expression, which they call the dance of Shiva, Shakti, this consort, the female aspect, Shiva, the static aspect, Shakti vibrates or dances, and the world appears, pointing out that that's all this world, and everything is. It's all a vibration pattern of energy, a dance of the Shakti, appearing as solid, substantial, real, and the pattern, shapes and forms, they can be active also, the same essence, patterning, shaping and forming, keeping the dance going. And others are static, like the mountains, the hills, and all the rest of it. They are moving, but not so fast. But you look at a mountain over the years, it gets eroded. The rivers, the stream, they carve a hole in the land to run through and change course. It's all transient. This dance or this movement of energy is constantly changing. And that body that you think you are right now is changing. It's not one, but there are thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being replaced. And yet we fear death, not realising it's going on all the time within this body. And eventually the whole pattern will break down into what we call death. But the cells that are dying right now are being replaced right now. That's the transience of it. And each cell that replaces the dead cell is suffused with that energy, that intelligence energy. It knows what to do. Because a liver cell will never become a heart cell. The cell that replaces it will be a liver cell, pointing out that it knows what to do. It's suffused with that intelligence. Heart cell won't replace a skin cell. All these cells that are making up this body have a seeming life, if you like to call it that, of their own. And they make up the pattern, the shape and the form that we take to be this personal and real. But look at the whole lot of it that's going on out there. We take that to be real too. How it's patterning, shaping and forming. Seemingly separate, seemingly apart, but can it live in that separation? It can't. It's got to be its opposite. It couldn't be there. can't be good without bad. There can't be pleasant without pain, or happiness without sadness. Day without night, winter without summer. Incoming tide without the outgoing tide. It's all vibrating. The dance is vibrating into good and bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad. And Shakespeare told you that 400 years ago, when he says there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We have this capacity of thinking. And thinking, when you look at it and investigate, you'll see that's a vibration also. Because it vibrates as past, pleasant, present, and future. Not static at all, constantly changing. So, when you look into these things and recognise them, and how have you been living up to now? Well, some of you here have moved on from that, but initially we think we live as a separate entity. This individual, this person, living as separate. But have a look. Are you separate? Separate yourself from the air, the earth, the water, the body temperature, the fire. You can't. So, as they say, you are in the world, but not of the world, but as the world. Not everything, but pattern, shapes and forms. So recognise that. Why are you going to stay in this sense of separation? Poor me. I'm unhappy. Why? Because I don't like this. I don't want that. And I think this is good and this is bad. It's because we take those words and the vibration, the way they are vibration, good, to be separate. And we want the good and don't want the bad. Leaving them not separate at all, they're two ends of the one stick. And so when the bad's there, we try to get rid of it. And that trying to get rid of it is what keeps us in it. Because it's me that's trying to become something. But if you realise they're not separate, the bad is not separate from the good. That if left as it is, it'll be like what it's doing in nature. It's not daylight all the time. The earth's rolling around the sun. And when this side's facing away from the sun, it'll be dark. And the other side is daylight. It will be light. And again, it'll be clear or nice, it'll be raining or wet or anything. When it's vibrating into the opposites, and there's that sense of separation. And we want the good and don't want the bad. See how that functions. Something comes up in your life and you like it. We don't want the things we like to go. Not realising that they're transient, they're constantly changing. We don't want it to go, so we keep it there. We cling to it. We fixate on it, trying to keep it there. Not recognising no how much you love it, it's going to change. And it certainly does change. So in trying to keep it there, what do? We're in conflict with it. Fighting it, trying to keep it there, not allowing it to go. Conflict means war with it. You're fighting with it. We want to hang on to the good stuff. We don't want the bad stuff to come. Try to get rid of it because it causes the fear, the anxiety and all the rest of it. Not realising if we leave it as it is, it'll change. But conflict, resistance is resistance. We're resisting it and conflict to it. Something comes up you don't like. What do we do with that? Well, we don't want the things we don't like. That's what's troubling us, the things we don't like. So what do? We resist them again, in conflict to it again. So whichever way you go, in the good or the bad, it's always, if you're resisting it, it's all conflict. That's why they tell you in the scripture, leave everything as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And it's transient. Recognise that and see it as transient. And you know it's transient. What are you going to do? You're going to continue to try to change it? Or see what that innate intelligence energy will do? As it's rolling the earth round the sun and causing the season to come again, they're changing by themselves. So your thoughts, feelings and emotions will change. But now, because of the constant conflict that's going on, we're constantly in that resistance. We don't give it a chance to change. There's all this psychological problems going on all the time. We might get little tastes of when everything's okay, but instead of leaving it as it is and let it take its turn, we try to get rid of it with this believed in entity, which causes anxiety, stress, depression, fear, guilt, jealousy, envy. All our psychological suffering comes about from resistance, conflict. It's the cause. The cause of my suffering is me. This believed in entity, this person. I don't like it. I don't want it. Got to get rid of it. So me is the cause, and the anxiety, the stress, and all the other psychological problems are the effects of the cause. That's one of nature's plans, cause and effect, which they call karma. And a lot of us got this idea of karma and worried about karma. Don't know, and the very worry is keeping the karma there. But to see that me is the cause of all my psychological suffering, and you've investigated the me, and see the me is just a concept, an idea, a word you've had that separates yourself from the absolute. Me is a fiction. And ask yourself, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to a cause? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out, do you? If you're not relating to the cause, where can the cause be? And who or what can have it? And so all this so-called karma that's appearing is because of the relation to it, relativity to it, taking it as separate, not seeing it as the one essence that's appearing, patterning, shaping, forming, experiences everything. So that's what duality is. Two, or other than one. Two becomes the many. But there's never been the many. There's only and ever been the one. And it's not even one. Because to say one implies there is other. It's though they put it as one without a second, not two. It's always and then ever and only that. You don't have to put a label on it, really. You don't have to label anything if you know it. But we do. That's what has happened. when we came into existence, we were born, and no one can remember your birth. Why? Why can't you remember your birth? You've been told when it was your parents, but you can't go back and realise you don't remember. People will say that they do, but they've got a story about it, might have a vision but no, you can't actually remember because you had no words. But we learn words or label. And it's the words that are separating. Tells you that in the Bible. In the beginning was the Word. Before the beginning there was no words. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So to put that word God on the words, the concepts we learn, and take this word to be a special word, a better or higher word. All things were made by him, and that's a fact. And nothing was made without the word. And have a look, all these things around you, you yourself, me, the trees, the flowers, are all words. You got your names, your labels, the trees, the flowers, they got names and labels. All things are made by the word. Before the word, prior to the word, when you born, what did you know about it? Nothing. You were living for the first 18 months, a couple of years of your life without the word. And you were getting along quite well, but you don't know much about it at all because you had no capacity of reasoning at that stage. You were just living naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously, just like the tree out there is living happily, naturally, spontaneously. Sap running through it. When the winter season comes and it cools down, the sap stops running. And the leaves drop off, branches become bare, and it looks like the tree's dead. But the life essence is still with it, if you like to call it life essence or godliness or whatever word you like. And when this warmth comes back into the season changes, that sap starts running. And what will happen in that bare, leafless tree? Little buds will begin to form, little green buds. Then they'll form into leaves. And then there'll be more come up, the leaves will form into flowers. The leaves won't form, but there'll be flowers come. And the flowers will become fruits. And in those fruits there'll be seeds. From those seeds, more trees will come. So it's that life functioning naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously, which is life itself, produces more life. But the persons live on in misery most of the time. Because they don't like what's going on around them, or they don't like this or that. And we've got the oil, we've got the control, we've got all the necessary things, and we're going to hang on to them, make us better. And the person next door, or the nation next door, we haven't got it, they're not going to share it, so we'll take it from them. And so it goes on. And that's what we taught to do by our parents. Instead of recognising things as they are and leaving it happen, we're taught to acquire, amass, accumulate, add to, all these things. Better education, more wealth, a good house, good relationship. Get the education to get it, acquire these things. But again, we go back to where we started from. Why are you unhappy? If you could do what they're saying and acquire all those things, you wouldn't need to be unhappy. But we don't get them. Why not? You're intelligent people. Why don't you get them? doesn't it make you say, well, maybe I'm looking in the wrong direction? I'm trying to get through these things through the capacity of reasoning and through the mind. But is there such a thing as mind? I call it my mind. Now, if I've got a car, I'll call it my car. I've got a house, my house. I call it my mind, and this body I call my body. Well, I know I'm not the house, the car, or the coat. It's mine. Well, when I'm saying my mind and my body, who am I referring to? Who is this me that I think is have these things? And I realise it's only a thought, a word. In the beginning was the word. It's one of the words I've picked up along the way. My body, my mind. Who's the me or the my that this body, I think this body belongs to? And I realise there's no such entity as a me or a my. There is a vibrating intelligence that's vibrating this whole manifestation. And in this manifestation, it has the capacity now of reasoning, which it picked up along the way also. Didn't have the capacity when it was formed, but it's picked it up along the way, that intelligence energy, and it takes that capacity and reasoning to be me. I can do it. But take the word itself, me. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Is the word the real? Is the word the thing? Is the word without that life force, that energy, vibrated? Has it any power or any meaning at all? Because a word is transient, it's constantly changing. It's ever changing and ever fresh. The life is transient changing. And the words we put on it are all been picked up and they change over time also. We call this I or me a person now. Comes from the Latin language persona, the mask. So that's what it was meaning in the first, when it was first learned, and when we've changed it around to making it seem this separate entity, this individual, this person. That has some life essence of itself. But could it appear, if it didn't have this pattern, this body, to express through? And how could this body express or pattern, shape and form as anything at all if it didn't have the life? What we call the life in it. So it's that life that's vibrating and separate, patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything in this manifestation. And there is only one life. There is no body, there is no person, or there's no thing that lives a life. It's life itself that's doing the patterning, vibrating, shaping, forming and living. And you are that life that's broken itself down into these human patterns or forms which we take to be real. But each pattern is a unique expression. There's no two patterns the same. And you know that because it's been recognised and realised that no two sets of fingerprints are the same. So each pattern is different, but each pattern is suffused with the same intelligence energy that's functioning this whole universe. That ain't what I call, for want of a better term. You can use the term God, if you like, which a lot of people do. In the beginning was the Word, so they put that word on it and separate it from it as the other words, something superior. In the beginning was the Word. But you are that life that enables that word to function. And that's all this manifestation is made up of. Life, sentience, beingness. The seeming insentient is still changing constantly. It's breaking down and rotting, disappearing. Other patterns, shapes and forms will appear and express. So it's like the ocean, which we call the ocean is never changing. It's still always and ever the ocean, yet it's ever changing. Because there'll be waves, there'll be ripples, there'll be foam, and all sorts of things appearing on it, changing all the time. Tides coming in and out. So they say it's ever changing, but never changing. And so is this manifestation. And you, as the pattern, are ever changing, appearing as that. But you, as the reality, your true nature, is the same as that godliness, if you like to call it that. You are the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing as everything. And they call it that which you are. That is the great mantra. I am that. And don't you know that? And everything is that. And don't you know that is everything? Because I say that's the cat. That's the tree. That's the carpet. That's the flower. That is you. That is me. Everything is that, the word that, which we discriminate again and put further words on, further words of language. That is this person, or that is the carpet, that's the tree, all the different languages. But I want still only that. We lose sight of that. That is the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing. Realise, recognise that that is what I am. Isn't that a fact? Say I am, is the way it's described. That sense of presence translates in the mind as thought. I am. I am that I am. That is what I am also. Everything is that. And I am the everything. And the everything is also the no thing. And what's it all appearing in? When you look at that, you'll see it's all appearing in this space, like emptiness. Space is emptiness. And the Buddha called it a cognizing emptiness, a knowing emptiness. But we think we know the emptiness. We don't. It's the emptiness that's knowing itself. And he made the statement that emptiness is form. It's that emptiness, the no thing, that's vibrating, patterning, shaping and forming all this manifestation. So all the vibration or movement of that intelligence, energy, that energy suffused with the capacity of reasoning or knowing. And you're knowing that you are right now. He made the statement then that emptiness is form, pointing out that all these forms are appearing in that emptiness. And isn't that a fact? Have a look at it. What's it all appearing in? Space. Find a centre to space if you can. Find a circumference to it. Find a boundary to it. Find anything at all you can say this is space. What is? It's got no labels. You can't grasp it. So it means it is no thing. It's empty. Can something come from no thing? It can't. And have a look out there. Everything, you, me, the trees, the flowers, is the content of space. Can you postulate or think of anything that could be outside of space? If you can, try and put it in that. But you can't. So when they call it a space-like awareness, or a space-like intelligence energy, cognising emptiness. Emptiness is form. The forms, the no thing, now appearing as forms, something. And the forms, it says, are nothing other than the no thing. Emptiness is form, and the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So they're not two separate things. They're not separate and apart. Two ends of the one stick like everything else is. But it has the two ends of labels on the two ends, good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, slow, loving, hating, beginning and end. So it all functions. So we lose sight of the non-duality, the one without the second, and believe it is dual. There's me and the other. There's me and that. Instead of starting from the fact that I'm already that, then we start from the fact of the believed in me. And I have to become realised. I've got to get it. Can't live like this, it's not too good. But if I become one with that pure intelligence, or put the label on one with God, I will be realised and live happy ever after. But then again, have a look at that word become. Can become anything. Because what does it mean? What does it mean to become something? It means we're something we haven't got right now, we're not becoming right now, but we will get it, we'll become something. But if you are already at the absolute, how can you ever or will ever become anything other than the absolute? It'll never happen. And some of us have been searching for years, trying to become, doing all the practices they tell us we need to do to become something. And it hasn't happened. Well, mightn't you just draw back for a little while and say, well, I've been looking. All this time, searched hard and in earnestness, and looked everywhere, right in the mind, but I've never ever found the answer in the mind. I've been trying hard. Well, being intelligent patterns mightn't have just dawned on you after all that effort. I haven't found the answers there, and I've been looking, and I found the answer to so many other things. But the answer to the mind and the beingness, no. Well, mightn't have just dawned on you, well, maybe I'm looking in the wrong direction. Maybe the answer's not in the mind. And then if I look into some of these scriptures, and people have understood it, or so-called people over the years, when they call the peace that passes all understanding. Telling us that. It's the peace that passes all understanding. Now what does understanding mean? Understanding means taking some mental concept or mental note or mental idea about it. If it passes all understanding, it's gone beyond the mental. And the mental is the mind. So the peace that passes all understanding is when the mind is not. And have a look at that. If you ask yourself the simple question right now, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? Or what can I say about anything without a thought? Well, it's got to come up. I can't say anything without a thought. Because it's all thought, it's all word. And in the beginning was the word. So while the word is there, word is mind. I'm looking in the mind. And you can get all sorts of concepts and ideas in the mind, but you won't find the answer to life there. Because life is ever changing and transient. So the peace is when the mind is not. Learning from that, well, I've got to quit looking in the mind. Mind can be useful, but it can be self-destructive too. So, when I spontaneously recognise the usefulness of it, and that which is causing the problems, discard the problems. Don't go there. Don't fixate on it. Let the thought go out of the breath. Bypass it. Step over it. All these different things you can different take on it. To try and let the thoughts go. Let them be. Instead of fixating on them, trying to keep them there where they're causing trouble. And at night, when you go to sleep, what happens? Don't the thoughts disappear in sleep? Now that means innately you know that you are not the mind, you are not the thought. If you were the mind and were the thought, that was what you really are. If you lost sight of it, wouldn't it be the end of you? And yet you gladly give it up every night. You want to get to sleep. You gladly give it up. And if you wake up during the night, you want to give it up again because you're back in the trouble. And the thought disappears. But then we dream, cause another world, another pattern. You wake up to this dream. Anyway, so that tells you that the answer is when the mind is not. So don't bother taking it on board and looking for the answer anymore in it. See what comes up spontaneously and naturally and realise that that's how thoughts appear, because no one can say what your next thought is. I ask you what your next thought is. You don't know. And that's true, you don't know, but a thought will come up. Where would it come from? Wouldn't it come from out that life, just like that space-like awareness, that emptiness, the life essence, or the intelligence that's in that life essence of that breathing and beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernails? You're not doing any of that, it's happening. The thoughts you're not doing, they're coming up. But as soon as it comes up, you put it onto this conceptual image we've taken on board. I think. I, the separate entity, has become the thinker, the subject. That's me or I that's thinking. I'm thinking this thought. The thought that's come up, we're claiming it. We're claiming the thought with another thought, concept. And you're not a thought. I think this thought, the very thought that's come up and you're thinking, you'll claim I think it. So thinker and thought of what? Subject, object. Can there be a thinker, can there be the thought I think, without thinking? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out. Without thinking, there can't be a thought. And there can't be a thinker without thinking. Can there be the thought without thinking? No. Thinker and thought are conceptual. They're vibration, a movement of energy. but the actuality is the thinking. Same with the seer. You say, oh, I see. But can that eye tell you I see? Does your eye say, look at this, Bob, look at that? It doesn't. It comes up as a thought. Oh, I see. My eye's not telling you I see, but the thought comes up, I see. So the seeing is happening through the eye, but not through the thought. Through the physical eye, but not the thought. And the thought I see becomes the problem again. There is seeing. Hearing is the same. My ear doesn't say, listen to this, Bob, I hear this. Hearing is happening, and it's claimed by the thought. The tasting, the touching, the smelling, all the functioning is happening, claimed by this conceptual image. But recognise the thought I see can't see, the thought I hear can't hear. The thought I'm aware is not yet awareness, the thought I choose is not the choice maker. The thought I'm experiencing is not the experiencer. So thought can do none of these things. It's a useful instrument, capacity of reasoning, that has got nothing to do with what I am in actuality. It's just a pattern or appearance which is taken to be real. The reality is the actual. And the unreal is what is seemingly so. Like the snake in the rope, like the blueness in the sea. Like the blue canopy of the sky. None of those things are as they seem to be. And there are many other things. This body is not what it seems to be. This mind is the same thing. And many other things out there. A mirage, the rainbow. Look into it, investigate. And they tell you that the false cannot stand up to investigation. And that's what needs to happen. All these erroneous beliefs we've taken on and believe to be real, investigate them, see if they're true. If they're false and don't stand up to investigation, then they're not the truth. And the scriptural saying is, know the truth. Not the false. It doesn't say stay with the false. It says know the truth. And the truth will set you free. What are you free from? All these attachments and all these concepts, all these beliefs we've taken on that are causing our psychological suffering. Or what we call the ego, the conceptual image. We're believing in and causing all these things to happen, and we're bound into them. But in investigation you can be free from the beliefs. You can be free from all those things. And in that freedom, what's there? There is peace there. The peace that passes all understanding. You see? It's that peace. So that we talk about and the peace we talk about, it's already that. It's the peace, it's that. It's the recognising. It is the cognising. That is where the peace is. So the I am that, and it takes on a different understanding when you start to realise what they're talking about. And all the other concepts we get on too. You see them in a different light. And the Satchitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, you realise I already am existing. I already am conscious. I'm not unaware, I already am that awareness. And in that state I'm happy to be. I can't negate the beingness, the knowingness, or the loving to be. That's another way of putting it. So in all the different ways you can cognise your absolute, the reality that you are. What are you going to do with the false then? Leave it as it is. Because as we pointed out earlier, it's the one stick. When the mind, this thing we call mind, vibrates, it vibrates into its opposites. But we think they're separate. We don't want the bad, we separate them. But not realising it's the good and the bad, the one thing, separate end. And it'll vibrate back to its other end if it's left as it is. But when we try to rid the mind of one thing and keep the other, it never ever happens. Because the good things are not going to stay there either. They'll vibrate into the bad. But left as it is, they're free to move. But when we fixate on one, we keep them there longer than we should and suffer accordingly. Just the same as in nature, it doesn't say, darkness, it's going to stay forever in the darkness. It's going to swing back to light. It's not going to be winter all the time, it's going to turn around to be summer. It's not one ended stick. When you get to one, you're rid of the other. It's constantly transient, it's constantly changing. As there, so it is here. Here and there are the one thing. As you, as I, it's all that one thing. Yeah, but we take them to be separate. You and me, you and I, me and the other. See it all as the one. And you can only and ever be that. So that'll do for today. It's enough. Got sick of it after a while. So, move in.
Yes, so we have, hello everyone who is with us online. We have 25 people and we have a couple of comments. Patricia from Argentina says, love you and thank you every day of my life. So beautiful.
Good. Good, Patricia. Thank yourself. Your real self.
Yeah, which is one with yours and mine. And now Tanya, good morning. I found out... What?
Not that Tanya.
Ah, yes, we have another Tanya today. That's Tanya from New Zealand. She says, I found out some bad news about my dad's health on Friday. It may be serious, life-threatening. There has been resistance to him dying and thoughts about him coming up a lot. Any pointers?
Well, what? Who dies? As a pattern, shapes and forms break down. But the energy that's enlivened it produces more. And where do you go when you die? You came out of the emptiness. Where else can you go? That life essence itself, we call it life essence, and not even that. The body rots and breaks down, but the essence of the body goes back into the basic space. Like the rain, the forms of water that comes up and forms a cloud, then the cloud dissolves and becomes rain, goes into the river, and the river will go into the ocean, and the ocean comes back as more clouds, more things. But will you ever get the same drop?
No.
No. It'll be a different pattern, different shape, but it's the same life that's expressing through everything. And you are that.
Yes, so life doesn't die. Of course it is a little bit different. I'm sorry to hear that, Tanya, because that's obviously disturbing. If you love, that love creates some sort of an attachment. I mean, even animals experience sense of grief when, let's say, the little calf is taken away from the mother cow, or, that's natural. That is caused by love. So remember that whatever resistance is there, it is there because of love. So your capacity to love creates the resistance. And also, it's different if you live with your father and suddenly that pattern becomes part of the landscape and then it's taken away from the landscape. It takes adjustment. But eventually, yes, life never dies. Awakening from the dream, meaning from the body-mind, is not a tragedy for him, certainly.
My father died. My mother's died. 2 sisters have died.
And the brother?
My brother's died.
Even the niece?
Yeah, and I'm on the way out. So, who cares?
Don't hold your breath. It'll keep you alive. Yeah, there is a caring, of course. I mean, love cares.
Well, I know where it's going to go. If it's absolute, can anything, the smallest particle, ever be lost?
No.
No, it's out there. Can everything be ever taken away from it? Added to it or taken away? No. It's absolute. It's always been so. And always will be.
And it's still a beautiful capacity that human pattern has to experience that love for the near and dear ones. And that resistance is motivated by that love. So instead of seeing the other side of the stick, that's a resistance and I hate it, it creates suffering, see where it comes from and stay with that. That will ease the suffering. I remember having a lot of experiences throughout my life when there was a grief. And that grief was there because of my capacity to love. And staying with remembering that capacity in the heart would ease the grief. And rather than resisting a grief, it would be embraced as something that is beautiful in nature. And look, maybe he won't die. Well, the body eventually, maybe in 30 years. And now you have this fantastic opportunity to appreciate every moment of him not being dead before it's too late. Like people die in car accidents. They don't have that wonderful opportunity to actually get on with that idea of that pattern disappearing from the landscape. So hopefully he will make it. I mean, my father is having a total kidney failure for years, and that's not an easy thing to see. He's more in the hospital than out of it. And dealing with that is actually an interesting thing to watch. So you could really use it as an opportunity to see how the mind functions, see what sort of ideas, what sort of feelings are being generated, and see how they resolve, because they always do. And ultimately, when the thought is present, there is a resistance. When the thought is not there, there is just what is. So it's a exploration, really, isn't it? Exploration.
Yeah.
And Amarnath has answered that question as well. Amarnath says, who wants pointers? Is different from me, body and father relationships. Me, father and pointers are just thoughts. Let it come and go, live as it is. Are we body, mind, desire and imagination seen as father? Universal awareness knows what to do, just surrender to it. It itself expressing as you and father. Truly only it's not you, father or me. And Amarnath also says, mind wants to know what is next, but both mind and time are false. They do not exist. And Ralph says, acknowledge and allow what you are experiencing to be. Beautiful. There is only Amarnath says, I is not physical, it is not spiritual, there is only isness and the hearts and flowers. And JB says, if you were the mind and thoughts, when you fall asleep, wouldn't you be done with? Although, another good one, Bob. Kat said something similar, I can't remember when, but it was, notice that even when thoughts aren't happening, you are still here. Both excellent pointers. Mind is what thinks it knows, and that identification with mind is that which veils the being. And now Tanya says, never get sick of the spiel, Bob. You sure were on a roll today. The spiel is always brand new and fresh. Thank you. Amarnath says, viewer and vision, thinker and thought constitutes minds which are mere projections, not the reality. Perceiver and perception are from non-perceivable intelligence energy. And Tanya says, no one is dying, that is true. Just digesting all the great clarity. Bob and Kat, thank you. And who dies, Amarnath says? Concept dies. Love cannot express no others or in that. Ram says love is everything. And Tanya needs to go. I'm attending the meeting tomorrow with Terry. Oh, thank you for reminder, Tanya. Tomorrow Bob and Terry are going to have a chat together on Zoom. You will find the information with links on Bob's websites and on Terry's websites. So everyone who wants to witness the event are most welcome to join. And later on, regular Bob's Zoom call with mostly American folks because of the timing, but anyone is welcome to join as well. That's the local time, 6:30 for the first and then 9:30 for the second, which is afternoon for America and night for evening for Europe. So that's it. So anyone would like to share something or give us a pointer or a question or doubt or
Come on, don't let the others outdo you.
Don't let the online chaps undo you. Yeah, get into a competition.
If I had a king of ear in here, wouldn't be this much silence. Or a few wines or something like that.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes, just wait a second. We'll give you a speaker so the guys who are online will also hear it.
Oh, yeah. If bear with me because it's hard to ask the question. If it's waking up and understanding this non-separation and that we are everything, you mentioned quite a lot the word vibration, which I really resonate with. So it seems that full awakening isn't an understanding, it's not a conceptual thing. So we can't will it, it happens. And what determines when it happens?
Beautiful.
It is always and has always been so. But it's obscured when we learn words. And our schools, the society, the parents that reinforce those words, and we reinforce them ourselves day in, day out, and it seemingly become real from the habit pattern. It's just a matter of recognising and breaking the habit, you know. What is wrong with right now if you don't think about it? If you ask yourself that question and try and see what's there without a thought, you'll realise you haven't disappeared, and with no thoughts or no words, there's a silence there, a stillness there, and a taste of peace. But you can't do it. It happens by itself in the realisation and the recognition that it's only the thinking or the believing in these concepts that cause the problem.
And it is really beautiful recognition straight away from the first spiel to actually hear and understand that you can't do it conceptually and you can't will it, because that imagined self cannot wake up. It is waking up is from the imagined self to, like, nothing wakes up. When the awakening happens, there is no one or no thing that has woken up. It's just the illusion that is being dispelled or seen through. And yes, nobody can will it, because if the imagined Santa Claus there is willing something and then suddenly it just poof, like a wind, so that willing makes no sense or no difference. But it is the recognition that the sort of non-dual state of oneness is always already here, always already available. And what veils it, or what obscures it seemingly, is that imagined self and imagined relationship with the world that that self has. So seeing through that whole overlay of imagined world with imagined relation and to imagined self is basically just taking the attention away from that conceptual overlay, and that attention rests. And that resting, relaxing out of the mind is like, there's nothing is found, because nothing has ever been lost. It has only been obscured by the dream. So no one wakes up, but yes, you can't find the answer in the mind, no matter how much contemplation, thinking, analyzing is done. It just really takes you nowhere. But to see that's all that have to be understood conceptually. You've already got it understood. Yes, it doesn't happen here. That's it. There's nothing else to understand in the ordinary way. It's, they call it a right understanding. It is the understanding that is kind of almost like a shift in a paradigm shift. The way we are viewing the world, it is the viewing from the individual entity that is having all that connections and relations with it. And shifting out of the paradigm, suddenly life just flows. It happens. It has no location. It has no life as such. It still sees through that pair of eyes, or speaks through that lips or throat and mouth, whatever. But it doesn't have location. It is not located in the body. And the question of death of the body, or the actions of the body, or even joys and pleasures and sadness of the body are just part of the happening. It is happening to the body, but it doesn't happen to me, the life. Or to me, the life, everybody happens, and every tree and every cloud, every vibration. Vibrating as sound, it happens to life, one could say, because it isn't really something that is separated from life to happen. It is one with life. It's like life appears as a sound, or as an object, or as a wave, or as everything. And yeah, it's when you start expressing it, it becomes really complicated philosophy. But once you stop and just breathe the thought out, it is already there. It's always and ever there. It's not complicated at all. In fact, it's so simple that putting it in words already really, every description really moves away from that undescribable simplicity. Everyone is already existing and is already conscious. And even saying everyone, it seems like we're talking to many, but it is really the everyone is the one. So it's always the self-to-self talk, or the eternity just playing, just dancing. But yeah, it's a beautiful question.
I'm sure
Did you want to say something, Peter?
You have to ask me. Will you care to say? Is somebody going to ask me that?
Would you like to say something, Peter?
I would, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The only thing I have to say is that enlightenment or awakening is always there, of course. You are awake, you are enlightened, you are that. But it may be useful to consider that you're only ever one thought away from that, this current thought.
We have a couple of comments from... they are outdoing you almost. Rohan says, "Hi Kat, when you said that the imagination can't wake up, it reminded me of something Paul Hederman once said. It is like the lion that thinks is a sheep trying to make an effort to become a lion." Yeah, that's a cute story. I think Osho was having that story as well. Story showing the costumes, the whole world as a costume. And Vivek says, removal of ignorance equals realization. And John says, great explanation, Kat, thank you. And JB says, I have heard it said regarding the conceptual imaginary self, waking up is not for the person, it is from the person. Yes, exactly. And no pointers, says Amarnath, no metaphors will help. To know that intellect is itself phenomena. Nowhere cannot know the unknown. Pure knowing is universal awareness or intelligence energy. Yep. That's it. I had a question before the meeting started, so I'll just address that question. We mentioned last week, I think, or was it a couple of weeks ago, that initially it feels like there is an effort to do investigation, that is an effort required to look and see, is it anybody home? Or look and see who is it happening to? Or look and see, am I aware of my thinking? It feels like it is the mind doing the investigation. But really, investigation just happens, but the mind narrates everything. Because initially, as we learn words, rehearsing the conversations in our head become habitual, and then the narrative goes on alongside as the life unfolds. That yap commentary goes on as well. So investigation happen, looking within happen through the inspiration. And the narrative says, I gotta do all the job, I gotta do all the looking, I gotta check, I gotta be aware of every thought. Oh my gosh, it's so much work, it's so heavy. And it is just the commentary. It really, the investigation is just what's happening. It doesn't take effort. It's the happening, because let's say I'm going through the day and something happened, I get offended, the pain happens, or the emotional, psychological suffering happens, and the thought happens next. See who is it happening to? What effort did it really take, and for who, to bring about that thought? To look within, who is it happening to? To bring about the thought, not only there is no effort to do it, and there is no doer to do it. It is just what's happening. So it doesn't burn any energy when that thought appears. Look inside. So although it feels in the narrative that there is mind doing the investigation, is doing all the hard work, and is exhausting itself, it feels like this because of the narrative going over what's happening. But the more habituated the looking within happens, the more kind of often it comes up spontaneously, the less of the taking credit narrative comes up on it. Because that's what the narrative does. It takes credit. It can even say, I'm breathing. But am I really breathing? The breathing is happening. But the mind says, no, I'm breathing. I'm doing the breathing. Nope. It only takes credit. It doesn't do anything at all. It doesn't manufacture thoughts. It doesn't manufacture reminders. Reminders arise, the work arise, the effort arise, the feeling that it takes effort and it takes vigilance, it all arise. And the narrative, taking credit for all of it, oh, I'm doing it, this is such a hard work, that is also part of the unfolding which is to be recognized. And it is the most wonderful to recognize how the action happens, and a moment later the credit-taking habit happens and hijack that action. I've done it. I have done the inquiry. I have done the meditation. And recognize it for what it is. It's just a commentary. Like the commentator on the football match says, let's say he is a commentator of particular, let's say, a Carlton football team, and it says, oh, we are winning. But he's not even on the football ground. He's not doing anything. He's commenting. And in the same way, that habit of narrating what is happening is not the doer of the happening. So just to see how it comes about and recognizing that so-called narrative self is not who you are, and it is not your true self. It's just a pattern of behavior which is created only because of the setting of the computer and the conditioning, and is learned very early age, because we could see from being really, really small how our parents go on the daydream trips and chat to themselves, and you can see that they're not fully present. They're somewhere lost in their imagination. So it may seem like we are giving a prescription to put an effort and do the investigation. And if it seems like this, okay, just let it seem like this. If you are still moved to give that effort because you're suffering, or you are moved to give that effort because of a hope for the future, whatever it is, liberation, just recognize that's also a narrative, because there is no future. And liberation is present already. It's just relaxing out of the thinking, which makes it come forth and shine forth. But initially I remember I was having the same sort of a narrative, saying that, oh, my longing for the truth and my longing and desire for liberation from the psychological and emotional turmoil, which was tremendous, was so huge that this strong imagined self imagined so strongly that it felt so real that everything else could be questioned, but not this. This was so real. But at the same time, it was so in such a strong longing and desire for liberation, and in such a love with the idea of enlightenment and truth and bliss, that it was ready to surrender. And it was ready to do anything. You want me to sit in a meditation every day, hour or two? Yeah, I will do that. You want me to do anything? I'll do that. So that sort of a narrative was going on. And yet, of course, if the meditation happened, the self didn't do it. The imagined narrative didn't do it. It only took credit. And once that has been clear, I've realized that, oh my gosh, that effort might have happened because of the habits, but there was never an I that did a thing, never an I that took a decision or made anything happen. Or you wanted to say something, Peter?
Yeah. I tried that once, actually, a long time ago. I was so frustrated with everything, I just decided to, look, I'm going to sit here at the kitchen table until I'm enlightened. And about 10 minutes later, I got really itchy and got a beer out of the fridge. I think. Doesn't work doing it that way. But yeah, just to finish that. You're here because you're here, right? Don't question that. You have a natural interest in who you are, of course. You know who you are. You already know that through and through, don't you? Really. You know that this is an ephemeral place. You know that everything is intangible. You know that this is the present moment and this is all there is, in a direct knowledge kind of way, without the mind. Isn't that true? You know that you're aware. All right, well, be about it. Take up your bed and walk. You're healed.
I have a few comments from people online. So Vivek says, no questions, no answers. Quest for the truth, and then finally rest in self. And Ram says, sends a heart. Amarnath answering to Vivek, removal of ignorance equals realization. He says, remover is absent, and the laughing faces. And now Amarnath says, investigator was never investigated. That was a biggest scam. And he also says, Jalaluddin Rumi, or Jalaluddin Rumi, this is silence, this moment, every moment is genuinely inside you. Bring what you need. There is nothing to believe. Only when I stopped believing in myself did I come into this beauty. Sit quietly and listen for a voice that it will say, be more silent, die and be quiet. Quietness is the surest sign that you've died. Your old life was frantic, running from silence. Move outside the tangle of fear, thinking. Live in silence. Not a bad advice, live in silence. And British Julia says, intuition arises more and more, but nobody here to claim it. Although a story comes up of, I know things before they happen. It is all so amusing, isn't it? And Supreme, says Ram about the poem of Rumi. And Amarnath says, unless you make tremendous efforts, you will not be convinced that effort will take you nowhere. The self is so self-confident that unless it is totally discouraged, it will not give up. Mere verbal conviction is not enough. Hard facts alone can show the absolute nothingness of the self-image. That was a quote from Nisargadatta. And Amarnath says also, claiming department, head, I died, department closed. Yes. So, anyone? Maureen, did you want to say something? Oh, no.
I just think it was beautiful what you said before.
Thank you.
Why do I think it's beautiful? Because I resonated with it. And particularly that what came for me then is that awareness is already observing the thoughts. It's already doing it for me, like a seed being planted in the ground. And my self-sabotaging me, like you said, jumps up to claim it. And then I find that exhausting. It makes me want to not give it up. I can't give it up, but the frustration arises. But you clarified that, because that's exactly what happens. Instead of dealing with thousands of thoughts, I think about one as it arises, as Bob said, one without a second. So as soon as a thought comes, I'm observing, but the frustration was arising each time. But now I understand I feel you could call it grace, or something's already doing it for you, because I already have that inner, say desire, or the inner recognition there's a truth in me. So because of that, then I need to trust more that life's already doing it in its own way.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I was really grateful for the way you explained it. Thank you.
You did beautifully. Yes.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to hear from Julia.
I would be losing the game, Peter. It's a private joke.
I just asked you.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
You're free to talk.
I don't know what to say except for I loved today's meeting. I loved how you started it. It was just with the simple truth of, if you're not happy, why are you not happy? I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah, what did you do to Julia yesterday, Peter and Dana? What did you do to her? Amazing. Julia sitting quiet. And we love Julia's chatter. We don't want you to
You
change.
look beautiful, darling.
And now
will get you everywhere.
Byron says, I listen, and I'm still not happy. Listen to the silence. And Ram sends heart. And there is JB says, excellent explanation, Kat. Commentator, always trying to claim being the doer and always milliseconds late for the reality of its commentary. Like lag on the internet connection. Or an echo. Oh, I like that. The echo. Yeah. Nice. And anyone? Even like what Julia, that was beautiful what you say, Julia, to just highlight something that really resonated with what Bob was saying. Even saying the same thing in your voice, in your words, with your particular frequency of transmission, can reinforce it so beautifully that people can hear it better. I have that feedback from quite a few people on that little Facebook community group, which is a closed group, but anyone can request joining. It's Silo Bob's pointing and sharing. People say that they heard Bob saying particular things many, many times, but only reading it in a particular short sort of a context on a big picture actually penetrated. And the same thing happens. Sometimes you hear Bob saying one or two strong pointers, but if it really moves your heart, say the same thing out loud and other people will hear it double. Like really, this is a gift that everyone can give. Anything that resonated with you, that you actually really feel is true. You feel it is true in your heart. For what he is saying, just repeat it. Even word to word, but it never is a word to word. It is priceless. And that's what Julia often highlights. The beauty of Bob's guidance is that it is not a one-man show. It is really, everyone can see their own flowering through resonating deeper and expressing it. Oh,
Sorry. Everything resonates. Like everything, like it's all one big resonance, and like, but it can't resonate to me. It's just resonance, because as soon as it resonates to me, then there's there's a sort of it's not real. It's like you could it might resonate and then it'll be conceptualized into something, but when there's not the character of a me as such, like there's just resonance, and everything is an aspect or a display or a part of the whole that's just playing itself out. Like I was thinking of like being a seeker and like practicing mindfulness and then learning to be mindful of the mindfulness and then watching the narrator and then watching the watcher of the narrator and this mental game like going crazier and crazier and crazier until it's like you just realize like it's all these little impressions are all part of this, are all appearing in the same screen and you have to there is nothing other than to stop it. Because it's futile, it's crazy, it's madness, and then something else seems to reveal itself like quite beautifully, and whatever that is. And yeah, I love being here. I love Bob, love the whole meeting and everyone. And thank you. Goodbye.
I have another couple of comments from people who are with us. So that is Byron says, "Why did you laugh about not happy comment? I don't understand." Oh, Byron, he took it personally, that he's still not happy and you laughed. No, it wasn't laughing at you or whatever. Don't take anything personal. It is listening. I listen, and I'm still not happy. Well, the I that is not happy is not who you are. And yeah, Byron thought you were laughing, or I was laughing, or anyone who was laughing. I don't even know who was laughing, that he took that was laughing at him. No, that's not. We don't laugh at suffering. No, we don't do that. So sorry you felt this way. No, we don't.
You laughed.
I don't know. It was probably something else that was said. It wasn't. Anyway, sorry that you are not happy, but again, the one who is not happy, the narrative, the mind, is not your true, natural, essential self. Who you are is a space-like open field of consciousness which is aware of the body-mind being unhappy. And it itself is not unhappy. This is what we are inviting people to recognize. That you are beyond emotional, psychological suffering, who you are in essence. So sorry for the narrative that is unhappy, the imagined self being unhappy, but we definitely don't laugh at suffering, no. And now Amarnath says, frustration points that separation is notion which can not be separated. And Byron's, oh yeah, that we've seen. Michael says, this commentator has nothing to say except thank you and much love to all. And Rohan says, thanks Bobcat and everyone. And Amarnath says, I is unhappiness, you already separated, you are seer of unhappiness. And Rohan replied to Byron, the more one looks into non-duality, the more it becomes clear that it is the I that is unhappy and wants happiness, and it is the problem. The I be found in direct experience. And Amarnath's silence was the answer to who is unhappy. No one, only silence. And British Julia, I love the simple pointer, what you were before the concepts and thoughts were believed in. Bob doesn't overcomplicate this message. That's right. It is so simple. And Byron says, not person, just why the laugh. I don't know what. Anyone remembers what was it? The story with the laugh? It's definitely not about Byron. We don't even really know.
It was about the expectation of Julia to say something loud, and then when she remained silent or at peace, it drew a reaction.
Oh yeah.
But she was actually resting in her own presence at the time.
Which was beautiful. It was just we didn't see it that often lately. Julia is our sparkly, beautiful, chatty girl, and we loved that about her. But yes, you're right. That was probably it. But we can see how easily that imagined self is actually taking stuff personally, which is not really personal. And laughing at Julia being silent wasn't personal either, because we loved Julia. It was just.
Well, that was a celebration.
It was celebration. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was beautiful, and. So Amarnath says, excellent, no commentary, no story, no mind, no story, no storyteller, or no story listener. Beautiful, everything is simplest, simple, complication is just notion. Does not exist two ends of same stick, beyond and prior to simplicity and complexity. And that's it. I guess we over time, so thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.